Okay, so we're going to look at references and looking at the concept itself in the first part. Zoom in here. This concept is by Billy Machin. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. Sorry, Billy. It's a brilliant concept. It really drew me in at first. That's obviously why I chose it. So when looking at the concept first, there are a few things you need to look at first. Obviously, first is what it's used for. Obviously, this is like a medieval Saleh. It's based off a Saleh helmet, and he's fused a skull with it to make it a bit more creepy. Obviously, used in fighting. The mood of the prop, obviously, very creepy, very like an intimidation piece. And you know, it's that nice blend of like organic and hard surface, which of course I really love. I thought it was really cool. We need to look at this contrast between textures as well. Contrast is incredibly important in pretty much all aspects of the texturing workflow, and you know, visually, this is the area that stands out most to me, because it's got this nice contrast of sharpness where there's a lot of kind of like blurry, muddy areas around the rest of the helmet, and so this is something that you need to keep in your mind going forward, that you want something sharp, and that's part of the height blend that we're going to look at later. We have that sharp contrast between this bony limescale death mask and this bluey low roughness metal, and yeah, as opposed to that contrast, we need to differentiate the textures themselves. So, like I said, we have this limescaley, bony. It can be interpreted in multiple ways. So this could be get like a rusty, or it could just be a very worn version of this metal. As part of the fun of interpreting a concept. What you could also do is just talk to the concept artist. They may not always respond, but in my experience, pretty much everyone has responded, and everyone's really nice. Billy, incredibly nice, and he just explained to me what his thoughts were behind the concept, and you know, his thoughts about I put down here about how he wanted to amplify the no eyes you know, factor of the skull. Is this corroded textures, this build-up of salt damage, water damage, and a bit about the story in his head about this helmet and how it came to be, basically. And you know, working with someone else when discussing concept is vital in your own understanding, basically, of it. Bar that, you can kind of like do your own guesswork, and so the other textures are obviously this bluey metal here, which has a lot of different hue shades, very saturated hues, which if you go into your research, you probably find some case hardening, case color hardening, stuff like this, which has these very vibrant hue shifts in it, which is kind of like a metal smithing process, mainly used in weapons manufacturing. It's something that I'd seen before, but I'd never actually known what it was And so that is also a goal of referencing, is to deepen your understanding of the actual materials that you're going to make. Because you want to understand the world around you to be able to produce the things around you, basically. And apart from that metal, we also have this rusty, this rusty area here. So that's where the rust basically comes from. Right, so when we're referencing for our prop or model or whatever, we're going to probably do a lot. So I try to reference as much as I possibly can for any piece, because it's vital in A, motivating yourself, B, understanding what you're creating, and C, building your visual library, which is incredibly important as an artist. One of the most important things as an artist is just observing the world around you and knowing how stuff works and how stuff looks. All the more so for a texture artist, I feel. And what I look for when I'm gathering references for specifically textures is I'm going to look for areas of high contrast and large details. So if we go in here and we look at this rust texture, immediately we see the main point of the main shape of this texture. We've got these huge rips with peeling rust, and that looks very appealing, doesn't it? So that's, if I was to translate that into a texture, that is what I would focus on. I would focus on that main shape first, and when I get that main shape, the rest just kind of falls into place. With every texture, there should be one thing which is unique about it, and which you basically build everything around. So let's take a look here. With this metal, we have this dark grey pitted, it could be like hammered, dense dings. I would say that was the main aspect of this texture. Even though it's a very subtle effect, there's nothing else that really stands out about the material itself. So that was what you would focus on, and then you would build everything around those pits itself. Again, another rust texture. Again, you have this flaky rust here. Once you get this, once you get these large details, then the rest is really easy to create. Looking something a bit more complicated, perhaps. Say this lime scale. If we zoom in really far, right here, we can see these different kind of like clumps, and you can see it's layered. If you get really close, you can see the layers in the lime scale, and I'd say that would be the main part of that texture. So once you figure out how to create those layers, those organic layers within that texture, the rest would be easy to come. Would be easy to work out. So we've gone over those areas of contrast. Another thing to add to that is, when I'm talking about contrast, I don't just mean large shapes and small shapes. I mean color, different color, warm and cold colors, roughness. So got this shiny and rough. Just contrast anywhere in a texture is hugely important. And of course, what the reference is used for. So here, obviously, we've got like an anchor point here, which is going to be submerged a lot of the time. Going to have a lot of water damage, which as we you know, as we looked at previously with the concept, is what we're going to look for. So obviously look for the references that you need, basically. Although also don't be afraid to grab references that are not exactly relevant, etc. So here, I believe it's actually some sort of plastic that has this film or papery material over it with rips and etc. It doesn't really relate, but we can see some of the details here which we could add to the prop model and texture itself to make it look more visually interesting. So these nice areas of contrast, these scratches perhaps. It may not be physically accurate, but if we can add it in a visually appealing way, if it looks right or if it looks good, just do it. Don't be afraid if something may not be physically accurate. Don't be constrained so much to that. And with references, the last thing is, I always like to look at the various other artists' work, other 3D stuff, to see what kind of level of quality I would like to achieve and what other people have worked out before me. Because if I could, basically, if I can steal someone's idea that they've already done before me, then you've saved a lot of work. And, well, let's not call it stealing, let's call it just inspiration. Because, you know, you see here a lot of beautiful details in the metal here. Come down here, and 2 sheets of just really beautiful 3D work that other people have done, and that you could just study at length, really study these props and various models, so that you can get an idea of the level of quality that you want to hit with the project that you're doing. And also, if you can gather any useful bits of you know, texturing info from it, then it's a great way of kind of like cheating in a way, and also just getting inspired, because these works are just fantastic, and you know, you want to create fantastic work. So if you look at fantastic work, you'll create fantastic work, hopefully. Yeah, I just want to reiterate how important referencing is. You should do it just constantly, even throughout a project. Keep referencing. If you don't understand anything, that's all the more reason to reference it. Alright, on to the next part, which will be a brief overview of the process prior to texturing. So, modeling, UVing, all that good stuff.